BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and welcome to my Bookish week for Sunday, September 24th. So I no intro because I finished 4 books, or I'm wrapping up 4 books for last week. So I wanted to get right into it. There's a lot of material here. And let's see. I had book group on Friday night, where we finally talked about this book, The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. And other than that, it was a busy work week. I don't have any updates. I really don't. My life is not that interesting. It will be coming up, but I'll tell you more about that later. But there's not much going on. So let's just talk about the book, shall we? The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. This was our September book for the Critical Chicks Book Club, my in real life book group. And I had said before, this is a very long book. It's physically very long. It's 14 pages, something like that. And this is the UK paperback, and it's still super heavy. But it's very, very long in pacing. That's what I was trying to communicate last time. And I think that's one of the things that bumped my rating down a little bit. I love long books. I have no issues with gigantic books, bricks, chunksters, whatever you want to call them. This is it. And I love them. But this one the length did not work for me. I thought it could easily have been cut by 300 pages or so, and it still would have been an excellent book, but it would have been better at a shorter length. And I'm going to put this down because I have a brace on my finger and it's heavy. So I'm putting it down. Covenant of Water. It begins, it's a multi-generational family saga spread out over 80-something years, maybe 90-something years. So it goes on and on and on. And it starts off with the marriage of a 12-year-old girl to a 40-year-old man. And this is an arranged marriage in 1900. I'm hoping I'm getting the information correct because it's been a while since I finished it. So it's an arranged marriage, and when the groom shows up to the wedding, he realizes he's been arranged to be married to a child and freaks out a little bit, but eventually agrees to the marriage, and they get married, but they live together, not as husband and wife, for many years until she grows a little older, and they eventually fall in love and they start a family. He owns land that is as far away from water as possible because there is family lore about a curse with water, that people in the family have drowned, died by drowning, died by accidents involving water. They don't go on the water. They don't swim. They don't go in boats. And so it limits their travel. It limits their doing different things. But a lot of members of this family stay away from water. And so that theme runs throughout the book, something to do with water, staying safe and avoiding water, or family members born who love water. So water is throughout the novel. And when the family eventually starts growing and this couple is clearly in love, children are being born, and the family stories continue. Alternating with that is the story of a Scottish doctor named Digby, and he is basically lost in life. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He lost his mother to suicide very young, not spoilery, it's in the very beginning of the novel, and he doesn't know where he's going to go, what is he going to do, so he joins the medical corps and sent to India, where he sets up a life for himself. And he is socializing and living with other British expats in India, creating lives, creating foundations, and the story goes on from there. Eventually, the two storylines, not going to edit that out, the two storylines converge. And they start converging kind of early in the novel, and by the end of the book, it explodes with conclusion. Why did I think this book was long in its pacing? Because it is. It's slow. It's long. Abraham Verghese is a doctor and an author, but there's a lot of medical stuff in the book. There's a lot of description. There's a lot of Indian history, but he kind of avoids the issues of colonialism or child marriage or misogyny or the subjugation of women, poverty. He does talk about poverty in the novel, but this is not supposed to be a political novel, so there's not a lot of discussion about colonialism and the British rule in India. It glosses over that quite a bit. It's a family story, and it is very long and must read faster than it does. The perspectives change back and forth. I would say the majority of the story is of the Indian family and their generations, exploring the water curse, exploring the ties of people getting married and having children. There are interconnected characters, and there's a lot of emotional action. There is a lot of death. There is a lot of marriage and love and tragedy. But Verghese goes to a specific superficial level and doesn't go further than that before the perspective changes and you move on to read another character. I kind of felt a little disappointed by that with every section. I wanted to be more emotionally engaged with the book. It's a very involved story, a lot of characters, and you can tell that it's growing to something as it gets further along towards the end of the book. There's a lot of family secrets, a lot of mysteries. What is this curse? Does it have anything to do with a physical ailment, or is it all psychological? Is it kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? A spiritual issue or a paranormal issue? What is it? Why are people dying the way they are? And some of these deaths are shocking and very sudden. It's like, wait a minute, you didn't prepare me for this. And it's like it kind of knocks the wind out of you a little bit. And I was some of those losses were like, I got to go backwards and read the last 20 pages because I need to kind of repair myself to like, didn't I see this coming? But some of the deaths happened that way. But I think he skates above a surface throughout the vast majority of the book until it gets to like the last 100 pages. And then the conclusion is excellent, but it took a very long, slow time to get there. And throughout the book, I was rating it about a 3 on Goodreads, and the ending pulled it back up to a 4 for me. So if you enjoy really long books, if you've read Cutting for Stone, I loved Cutting for Stone. His previous novel, this is not the same for me. It didn't work as well as Cutting for Stone did. But if you do like long books, if you like family stories and family secrets that come to a very satisfying conclusion, then you could try the book. It is pretty good. Okay, I finished 3 additional books. I finished Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and I listened to the audio, and he actually narrates the book. This is a young adult novel about a teenage boy named Will, whose brother Sean has been gunned down and killed just a day or so prior to the action in the book. And he believes he knows who killed his brother, who he idolized. This is a brother he worshipped, older brother. His brother was taking him under his wing. The brother had gone to the store for a special soap for their mother who has eczema, so he could only go to one place to buy the soap for her. And while he was on that errand, he was shot and killed. So Will has decided he is going to go after the boy who he believes killed his brother. So he finds a gun, he takes a gun, doesn't really know how to use it, doesn't really know how to handle it, but he is going to exact revenge for his brother's death. And Long Way Down is the story of Will getting on an elevator and pressing the L button to get to the lobby, to leave the building, to go and find his brother's killer and shoot him. It is an extraordinary book. There are characters that basically on each floor, a different character enters the elevator. And that's all I can say. And the entire time he's going down in the elevator, He's trying to think about what he's going to do. How does he feel about the thought of killing another boy? What's going to happen? What are the repercussions going to be? And at each floor, he's interacting with each of these characters that comes inside the elevator. It was a great book. I'm not the audience for the book, but I thought it was very well written, very creatively done. It's so easy to read. It is kind of an important exploration of gun violence and retaliation for a family death, especially for families struggling with poverty, gang violence, guns in the home. It's an important book, but it's so well written and so nicely narrated by the author that I do recommend it. It's a young adult or suitable for high school age-ish young people. It's a short read, so I do recommend it, and the audio is very good. What else did I read? What did I read? Oh, I read Disgrace on my Kindle by J.M. Coetzee. He is a South African author, and I believe this is probably his most famous book. This is the story of Professor David Lurie, who is a communications professor, mostly an adjunct instructor who also has the chance to teach one additional course, and he likes to teach literature courses. He's kind of a middle-aged, a little bit of a washed-out professor at this university, and he succumbs to the attention. No, that's not right, because she didn't do anything wrong. He succumbs to his attraction to his young student, Melanie. And he has already described himself as a womanizer, a romantic wanderer, philanderer, but he also claims to love women. But this young girl, a 20-year-old student, grabs his attention, and he simply pursues her without even bothering to think, does she want this pursuit? Does she want his male attention? And the book is told completely from his view, his perspective. So we are in his head primarily through the entire book. And he made me very uncomfortable because he's ultimately a predator. He really doesn't think very deeply about the women who are on the other end of his attentions. He's very physically aggressive, but he doesn't consider himself violent or sexually aggressive. He believes he's seducing these young students. And he does seduce this girl, Melanie. He finds out where she lives. He shows up at her house, and he conducts a sexual affair with her, what he believes is a sexual affair. But you can very clearly discern from her actions that she really did not want to go with this affair. She really was not that willing of a participant. And her boyfriend reports him to the university. He is told to come before a tribunal of his peers and the authorities at the school. They tell him they're going to fire him. They want him to apologize. He doesn't believe he's done anything wrong. He leaves. He resigns. And he goes to the African countryside to live with his daughter on her country farm out in the middle of nowhere. So he is disgraced by the university, and he doesn't really agree why he was forced to resign. But when he moves with his daughter and he basically has to embrace this country farm life, he starts to gain some perspective, even though it really doesn't change his own attitude of himself. There are some very traumatic events that happen when he's living with his daughter. And the word disgrace and the definition of disgrace and the ideas that the reader can imagine is how somebody feels disgrace. He is disgraced by the university. He is disgraced by his actions. He is disgraced by the academic community. He is exiled pretty much, even though he's convinced himself that he's chosen this. But he is a very uncomfortable, sexually predatory, middle-aged man who is basically clueless as to his own daughter as well. He sees women as attractive or not attractive, and yet even women that are not necessarily physically attracted to him, he finds some benefit in being sexual with them. So he's kind of just a disgusting character, but in his view, he's not that bad of a man. He knows who he is, but he doesn't think he's that bad of a person. So there's a lot of ways we can analyze disgrace in this story. His disgrace, the disgrace that he perpetrated upon this young student, the disgrace that he brought to his university, the disgrace that he brings to his daughter, the things that his daughter goes through, the traumas that he deals with, how that adds another level of disgrace to him and his family and his story. I had mixed feelings after reading this book. He is such an unlikable, uncomfortable character. The writing was so smart, very intelligent, very creative, but I just did not like his point of view. I didn't enjoy reading his thoughts. I didn't like reading life from his perspective. There's no other perspective. There's no depth of character in this young student, Melanie, and his daughter. And this book is on the many lists of the best books of all time, one of the best prize-winning books. So very conflicted for me, but those are my honest thoughts on Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. And the last book I finished was Hotel Duloc by Anita Brookner. Brookner is a favorite author of mine. I've had this book forever, and I finally read it for Shorty September. This one was published in, 1984. So yes, it is a 43-year-old book. Did I graduate from high school? No. This is a, 39-year-old book. Oh my gosh. I'm old. But I really enjoyed this one. I didn't love it like I thought I was going to, but I really did enjoy it. This is the story of Edith, who is a romance writer, and at the very beginning of the book, she is kind of forced by her friends to go to this hotel in Switzerland to escape, because there has been some embarrassing event that's happened that we don't know yet at the very beginning of the book. So they push her to this hotel to get away and recover. We don't know if it's because she had some sort of psychological event. We don't know if something traumatic happened to her. We don't know why she's running, why she's leaving to get away from her home and to, what she's trying to fix, what she's trying to escape from. We very quickly find out what it is, but the book is a character study of everybody she meets at this Hotel Duloc. It's kind of an isolated hotel that hosts a lot of unique, quirky characters, and they are typically return characters annually. The events in the book happen towards the beginning of winter, so the hotel is going to close down for the colder weather. But this is the story of Edith, who's trying to finish her last novel and give it to her publisher. She's distracted. She is outside looking in, so to speak, that type of a character. She's learning about the other people staying at the hotel. She's befriending different people. And the entire time, again, another book we are reading from her perspective. So we are getting her thoughts and her feelings and her attitudes about the people she meets. We read a lot about her life, how and why she ended up here. And this is Anita Brookner. Her language immediately pulls you into the book. It's very, very, not formal language, but very choreographed, very purposeful sentences. It is very quiet, but nervous in its writing, if that makes sense. And this is Anita Brookner yet again writing about a single female who's kind of referred to as an excellent woman, as quote unquote the Barbara Pym novel. And it's very well done. I loved the ending. It made perfect sense to me, and it was almost like it ended the way it should have. And yeah, I do highly recommend this one. It's way short, very quick to read, but Anita Brookner's language is always beautiful, and I really love that about her writing. So that is it. This is a nice long one because I did finish 4 books, or I wrapped up 4 books, even though 3 of them were short ones, shorties. So that is it for me. Let's see. I'm still finishing up Shorty September. What am I currently reading? I'm currently reading Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. It is the last book for the Blind Eye Book Club, and I will be wrapping that up early next week. If anybody else on the Voxer group has read it, I will be wrapping it up on Voxer. If not, I will be wrapping up next weekend in my Bookish Week video. And I am also reading a contemporary cozy romance, Flying Solo by Linda Holmes. She wrote the novel Evie Drake Starts Over, which I really enjoyed. So I'm reading those two books currently. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.